This year, Ollie's gonna help Mom find the bright side. That's better.
I am a ray of frickin' sunshine.
Yeah, you are. This gal really needs her sleep.
What I need is more hours in the day.
Try these. You'll thank us in the morning.
Those really worked.
This year, we're doing wellness on your terms.
Ollie!
The Panera You Pick 2 you've always loved now has a price you'll love even more. Starting at $8.98, mix 2 Panera faves to craft the perfect meal just for you. Whether it's a soup and salad or sandwich and mac, the choice is all yours. Panera's You Pick.
Year history, television has spawned other enormous stars, yet none of these greats meant as much to the Johnny Carson star. All due respect. Thank you. For those of you who are here for the governor's ball only, it is starting now. In the 1978 New Yorker profile of Johnny Carson, Kenneth Tynan describes an audience question and answer segment that Johnny was doing on The Tonight Show. An audience member asked, "What made you a star?" Johnny replied, "I started out in a gaseous state and then I cooled." On October 23, 1925, Johnny Carson began his life in the gaseous state of Iowa, and long before he retired on May 22, 1992, he had become the biggest star in the history of television. His final show was watched by 50 million Americans. With all due respect to the laws of astrophysics, Johnny Carson's star never cooled. In its 60-year history, television has spawned other enormous stars, yet none of these greats meant as much to the daily lives of the people of this country for so long as Johnny Carson. For 30 years, the nearly routine morning question was, "Did you see Johnny last night?" For 30 years, Johnny was America's host. The old Sophocles line, "One must wait until the evening to see how splendid the day has been," certainly applied to the night show. You didn't really know how your day had been until you saw Johnny and his friends, Karnak, Aunt Blabby, Floyd Arturbo, and my favorite, Art Fern. Whenever I'm driving on the freeways of Southern California, I still think about cutting off my Slauson. Johnny's guests were the biggest names in entertainment and politics in a constant parade of hopeful newcomers. And speaking from personal experience, you were not really a comedian unless you had appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Johnny gave me and countless others validation, true status in show business, and a career. But it wasn't all movie stars, singers, politicians, and comics. Little kids, old people, and zoo animals all were showcased with the same aplomb afforded the greats. Then, of course, there was the monologue, Johnny's nightly 24-joke summary of world events, big and small. Johnny's monologue was like the New York Times. It was the nightly television comedy of record. And if a joke bombed with a sly look of withering disdain, Johnny made that the funniest moment of the night. This was the true magician in Johnny Carson. All so easy, so effortless. In a culture that indiscriminately invokes the gold standard as a measure of judgment, Johnny Carson was platinum. For 30 years, he glimmered to a soft, steady brilliance. And for those who got here too late to witness the genius of Johnny Carson, it is unlikely they will ever know television that provides such wit, charm, intelligence, and grace. In the same New Yorker profile, Kenneth Tynan asks a New York journalist whether he could define in a single word what made television different from every other form of entertainment. The journalist replied, "Carson." Every night in 4 different decades, Johnny Carson put Americans to bed, making them feel a little better about how the day had been, and perhaps even making it splendid. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, here's Johnny.
And now, here's Johnny!
You're Joanne who?
Caroline Drayson.
Caroline Drayson. You're 2 different girls?
Yes.
Say the secret word and Grouch will come to your house.
I've got to see a doctor cause there's something wrong with me. What can it be?
I want to tell you something. I'm very glad to be here. You know, when you come on last, did you ever get the feeling that the world was a tuxedo and you were a pair of brown shoes?
Dippity-doo.
What form's on your dippity early in the morning? You see, if you look an animal right in the face and talk to them, then you know you're not scared. You're governor now of Arkansas till 1991?
That's right.
Yeah. Were you looking beyond that, politically, or are you?
Depends on how I do on the show tonight.
See this? It's a quarter, right? Now, if I take it and hold it, and I give it to you, would you hold it for me? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Now, watch very carefully. Okay, here it is. And you hold it. Right over here, your ear. You ready?
That really disappear.
What? How do I make it you get married?
Maybe I should have saved those leftover dreams. Funny,
but here's that rainy day. Where is that worn-out wish that I threw aside after you brought my love so near? Funny how love becomes a cold, rainy day. Funny that rainy day is here. It has been an honor and a privilege to come into your homes all these years and entertain you. I bid you a very heartfelt good night.
Felt just stayed too long, and they weren't the Bob Hope of the olden days.
Right.
And he said, please tell me if I stay too long that it's time to go. And once I do retire, remind me not to go back. And I didn't have to do that.
You know, see, that was, I think, surprising to most people because once you got not comfortable, but once you accepted the idea that he was retiring, we all assumed that he would come back from time to time in various forms. And I know people tried to get him to come back, and he just did not. Now, did that surprise you that the cutoff was so complete, total?
No, it just made me realize what a classy guy he was. That was the smartest thing he could have done.
Right.
Because the temptation is to go back.
Yeah.
I mean, when you do a show like yours and you get possibly a standing ovation every day, all of a sudden it ends, you would want to go back and recreate that. But he never did. He knew he wanted to be remembered as he was at the top of his game.
Now you mentioned something that I found hard to believe, that you really didn't become good friends with Johnny until after the retirement. Is that true?
It's true.
And what was that friendship like, and how was he different after the retirement?
He was much more relaxed. He was much more open. He was much warmer. I mean, he was always a shy man who was not comfortable with people, really. And when I used to see him in the last 10 years, he was just outgoing and relaxed and had a wonderful time.
Right.
And it's, I guess, some load dropped off his shoulders.
Did he ever talk about missing the show at all?
Well, the one thing he missed about the show was doing the monologue. He loved the monologue. And he would pick up the papers in the morning and write jokes from the paper for his own amusement. And then he would call me. It's true. He would call me and read them to me over the phone. And I thought they were hysterical, and I'd laugh like crazy. They were real good Johnny Carson jokes. But he had no outlet for them. So after a couple of times, I said, you know who would love these jokes? Dave. You should send them to him. And he said, no, I don't want to do that. That would put pressure on Dave because he'd feel he'd have to do them to be nice. Then finally I convinced him that it was okay to do them, and he sent some jokes to you, and you used them on the air, and he was delighted because he was delighted that you did them, and he was delighted that the audience laughed at them, and gave him a great pleasure.
Yeah, well, it was a tremendous thrill and a boost for us because we're just sitting here day in and day out and day in and day out. You get a call from Johnny Carson, and he's got jokes for you. I mean, it's like it's like Christmas morning, for God's sakes. Now let's talk a little bit about when you first met Johnny and when you went to work for Johnny. Did he ever get upset about the show? Was there ever any anger, either on the show about something that went wrong, or after the show? Were there meetings, or did he ever scream? Or
he would really get, no, he was not a screamer, but he would get angry when there were technical problems.
Technical problems. Oh, technical problems. Technical problems.
All of a sudden the sound went out, or a light went out, and afterwards downstairs at the postmortem, he would say, now what in God's name happened? How is it possible that this mic was dead when it should have been open? And our director, Bobby Quinn, would always give him the same answer, and he didn't seem to notice it. It was the same answer every time. Somebody must have kicked out the plug.
That was fine.
And that was enough.
You're doing fine. Just relax. We'll be right back with Peter Liskell, everybody.
Here at our Denny's, I'm not...
Peter and Sally, producer of The Tonight Show. It was always my impression, even before I got to know how things were working out there, that Johnny Carson was bigger than NBC, bigger than television. And you must have had a sense of that working there. I mean, you felt that way, I'm sure.
Well, the nice thing about working under those conditions is the network wouldn't bother me.
Right.
It's a luxury that isn't always there.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'd just say, well, that's the way Johnny wants it, and that would be the end of the discussion.
I've been trying to think if there is as big a star on television today as Johnny, and I don't think so. I tell you who comes close to mind, and people will probably laugh about this, but somebody who is nearly as good as Johnny is Regis Philbin. And I think Regis does a tremendous job, but the difference that you just pointed out is you can push Regis around. Sure? Yeah. But you could never push Johnny around, could you?
That's right.
And it's fun to push Regis around.
Yes. Will you please have dinner?
Want to create a beautiful logo in seconds? Design.com.
Live from Hollywood, The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, the 25th anniversary. This is Ed McMahon along with Doc Severinsen and the NBC Orchestra inviting you to join Johnny as we celebrate 25 years of late-night entertainment featuring Groucho Marx, Red Skelton, Jack Benny, George Burns, Bob Hope, Pearl Bailey, Jack Webb, Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, Martin Luther King Jr., Robert Kennedy, Judy Garland, Liza Minnelli, Lena Horne, Diana Ross, the Jackson Five, Tina Turner, Paul Simon, Itzhak Perlman, Luciano Pavarotti, Ed Ames, Steve Martin, David Letterman, Jay Leno, Gary Shandling, Eddie Murphy, Buddy Rich, Benny Goodman, Louis Armstrong, Fred Astaire. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Johnny.
Do you actually have free thought? This video is an experiment, and by the end of it, you'll know if you passed or failed. If you go on any video on YouTube or TikTok, you're gonna see the exact same comments by completely different people left on completely different videos. But it's still the same comment. Only in Ohio, Bro's the Rizzler, I edge to your videos. Straight up meme formats in the comments. Like, I made a community post with my fit for the FNAF movie, and almost every comment is, we making it out of the FNAF reference with this one, emoji spam. But why do we comment the same bit? A lot of the times it's a way to gain clout. You want top comment, you want to be pinned. If you're on TikTok, you want the blue comment. You want people to see you. But is it really you making the joke? Or has it already been written for you? Comments on this video are turned on, but I want to see if you have what it takes to not comment. Don't say anything. Don't be funny, don't interact, don't say first no matter how tempting it is. And we'll determine, do you actually have free thought?